When it comes to people pleasing, it's not just being nice, it's being manipulative. And in a way, it's you trying to control other people. So think about it. Pleasing others. Would you like to please someone you care about? Yes? No? Yes. Would you like to be nice to someone you care about, that they're happy? Yeah. Well, that's great if it's authentic. But if it isn't, then that's manipulation. And that's people pleasing. It's not actually being nice.
Before I show these definitions or give you a definition of these terms, I'm interested in how you define peacemaker, how you define pushover, how do you define being a people pleaser, because we have so many different terms out there and we're all establishing a new understanding on how to use these terms. Some of them I adopt, some of these statements I look at the term itself and I think if I was to describe a people pleaser, it would be an opportunity to serve one another. And this is an exchange of services where we all have our gifts and our gifts are naturally something that we are in tune with. And so we give it freely. It doesn't feel like it's draining us. And so we serve and it pleases people and their experiences. That's how I initially looked at people pleaser.
No, ma'am. No, you're very mistaken. You're very mistaken.
But let's look at these definitions on the screen now to get an idea of how it's been defined for all of us. People pleaser is someone who habitually prioritizes the needs, desires, or approval of others over their own needs, often at the expense of their own well-being, boundaries, or personal goals. This behavior is typically driven by a strong desire to avoid conflict, gain acceptance, or feel valued by others. People pleasers often struggle to say no and may feel responsible for others' happiness, sometimes leading to stress, resentment, or burnout. This next one, for pushover, is defined as someone who is easily influenced, manipulated, or taken advantage of by others because they tend to give in or avoid standing up for themselves. They often lack assertiveness or the willingness to enforce boundaries, which can make them appear overly accommodating or submissive in situations where they might otherwise push back. A pushover may agree to things they don't want to do to avoid conflict, seek approval, or simply because they find it hard to say no. They find it hard to say no. And I've been in this space before because I haven't truly understood how you can be all the things that's described as the best version of Christ in the Bible and see all the experiences outside of you and work through it effectively. One of my goals here with this series is for us to engage in this concept of people pleasing and peacemaker together to establish boundaries in all the different facets. So we talked about a few topics so far. We talked about creating a safe place for not only other people, but understanding our boundaries when we're creating those safe places so it's also safe for us. We talked about having emotions attached to the circumstances that we see from other people to get that relationship going. And then we have today, which is going to be a different experience. So I talked about pushovers and people pleasers, and the video that I shared today might not exactly fit, but it talks about this idea of different theologies or different versions of Christians. And the reason why I think this is such an important concept or topic is because there are so many definitions or so many different theologies and so many different opinions in a seemingly one body faith or one body belief system. And with these different theories, with these different denominations, this has been the place where I have found anger with content creators who have identified themselves to be Christian, especially when I started to get back into this content to see how do you get into the Bible a little bit more intentionally. What is it that I need to know? How can I really captivate, or how can I really cultivate the spirit that's after God's own heart? What's going on out there? What are the testimonies and what are the stories? And so I come across a lot of content where the Christian content creators were finding someone to judge or they were fighting about what's right in the Bible and the theology. And I thought, like, they were making me upset, but they were making me upset because they weren't kind. They were making me upset because they didn't use the tone that I wanted them to use. All of these ideas that I had in my head about being a peacemaker, I've come to an understanding so far that, well, actually, let's watch this video first, and then I'm going to come back and give you a little bit of takeaway on where I went as far as my idea of seeing Christian content creators become peacemakers, or to use a soft tongue, or not to be in disputes, how I shifted my perspective. And this video had a lot to do with that. I couldn't think of that last word. Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
The Lord is not only looking for one type of denomination, he's looking for people who have different facets of himself that are much needed in this culture. We cannot only have really apathetic, super academic Christians. We can't only have really spirited Pentecostal Christians. We can't only have creative ones. We also need the ones who are kind of spooky strange, who take everything too seriously. We need all of those. Like, every single type of manifestation of Christ's truth is important in the body of Christ. The Lord is careful to consider every single type of believer who confesses Christ as Lord in his church. Everyone is so important, and the enemy would love nothing more than to make us convinced that, oh, that's not real Christianity, and to make them our enemy when in reality they're our partners in this work. So yes, we get on each other's nerves, but we're gonna fight for the Lord Jesus.
Okay, so what I liked about this video is, by the time I seen this video, I've come to this understanding that I'm not going to let these content creators get on my nerves. I'm not going to let these content creators remove me from what I know to be true, is that it is okay to share your opinion, to have conversations without putting people down. I still believe in that. I believe in thinking on the good. I believe in a soft answer, turn away wrath. I believe in community building with thoughtful communication. I still believe in that. However, I've noticed that I kept watching these videos because I was so interested in how they were able to do this and still say that they believed in God or believed in the scriptures, because the experience that I seen in the scriptures, or the scriptures that I were coming across, it just didn't match how they were presenting. And I couldn't imagine that anyone who really wanted to follow God would come to the stage of this angry, down-putting content creator who called themselves a Christian and still wanted to come to God. But all things work together for the good. As I was battling through this and going through this, I actually, brought it up in therapy a few times. It started to make me consider what my role would be. If I'm complaining about this, what is it that I actually wanted to see? And because I have a soft spot for those who believed and had a desire for the faith or a belief in Jesus, but was disappointed by people in the faith, I thought about them and I thought about myself, even when I was confused and didn't understand what was it that I wanted to see. So today, I want to share with you all a framework, ads. So the first two frameworks we were using were called bids. This one is called ads. Ads is like the stock exchange, we're calling it the thought exchange, where you're experiencing an investment. You window shop, you feel like these thoughts are important, you want to start investing in these thoughts and you want to do something about it. And so you put yourself in a position to invest in these thoughts. So it's going to be a part of your life. So let's look at ads on the screen now, and let's go through some key questions as it relates to this last video. So ads: analyze, decide, support. Align seamlessly with the thought exchange concept where ideas are treated like stocks, evaluated, invested in, and nurtured. Here's how the framework fits into today's process. Questions: what are the strengths and weaknesses of the idea? So for ads, the first thing we want to do is analyze. So we're examining the idea and learning from diverse beliefs, even those that feel challenging or uncomfortable. So for me, the diverse belief system was, you can teach the word of God and you might be a little bit abrasive in your teaching. My understanding has come where there are different makeups of people. I can only receive someone who seemingly has self-control, who seemingly knows how to use a kind word. To me, that represents a lot. However, there are so many different people with so many different experiences, with so which are going to be met at the place that they are. And sometimes because they have grown up and heard things a certain way, they need that tough, rougher love. Okay? So let's look at these questions for analyze. What are the strengths of being open to learning from people with differing or extreme beliefs? What biases or fears might prevent me from engaging with their perspectives? And are there potential dangers or challenges in engaging with beliefs I strongly disagree with? So let's take today's video in consideration if it's something that you are interested in. If not, think about any other content out there where you have a different belief system. We want to decide how it might have potential dangers, but we also want to see how can we be in this space to make it a safe place. So when we think about this in real life, there's some questions I want you to consider. When have I dismissed someone's belief without trying to understand them? And what could I gain by asking thoughtful questions instead of making assumptions? So here's one thing that was happening with me. I would come across this content, and honestly, there was good doctrine. Do I want to say good doctrine? There was content that was coming from it. I was always learning. I'm always in a position to learn. So even if it's different, I can look at the content, be angry at the fact that they don't have a kind tone or they choose violence, and still be able to find value. And I was learning. And then I started to soften up because I could see them differently because of the choices I started to make as far as engaging and having thoughtful questions. So for me, when you start to be curious about why a person is the way that they are, and you have the questions for them, or maybe even create scenarios to make it a softer place, it helps us build better connections. So let's go into D. So in D, this is when we are going to decide. So you're in this thought exchange, which is similar to the stock exchange, and you're going to decide whether or not it's worth it. So the purpose of decide is to choose whether to adopt the idea of engaging with diverse beliefs. Is it valuable to engage with people whose beliefs make me uncomfortable? Why or why not? What boundaries or guardrails do I need to ensure I stay grounded in my own values while learning from others? So we're thinking about real life now. When you think about the situation outside of the content that we consume, you come across someone who has a different belief system than you. It could be someone you consider a friend, someone you like. And sometimes we see this when it comes to politics. We decide that we're never going to talk to a person again. Here are some things to consider in real life. How can I create space for curiosity instead of judgment in the conversations? And which relationships or situations this week could I approach with openness instead of defensiveness? If we choose, life is about choices. Do we want to choose to always be on the defense? Do we always want to choose to be angry at someone? Do we always want to choose violence? Do we want to choose peace? All right, let's navigate to S, which is support. This is the last in the framework. And the purpose here is how to integrate the concept into our own life. So how can I practice asking better questions when confronted with beliefs I disagree with? What tools or resources like books or podcasts or mentors can help me explore different perspectives respectfully? And so for real life, this is an example or a scenario that we can put up. Let's say a friend expresses a belief you find extreme or unsettling. Example, their religious practices. How can we practice or create a script on what we would do in this situation? Maybe we've already been in these situations, but now this is the opportunity to practice what we actually want to see in the end run. So have a question to understand. What led you to this belief? How has it shaped you in your life? Reflect on their shared values. I can see how this connects with your desire for X, Y, and Z. Maybe that's value, the family or faith. And then continue to stay curious and make it from a genuine place. I don't know if to say make it from a genuine place is easy to adopt, but the desire to want to be genuine, to be authentic, to really sincerely be curious about someone instead of judging them could lead us a little bit further in the solutions that we want to see. Because imagine this, we are upset with people because maybe their beliefs are different than ours. They made us angry in one way or the other. And we're at this point, we're not talking about someone physically abusing someone or someone having a mental disorder that causes them to extremely hurt you and harm you. We're talking about our everyday encounters where, we get in our feelings, we're upset, we're mad. And we seem to work it out in most cases, especially in the relationships that we love. We'll get angry. We might have a silent treatment for a little while, but if we really love that person, we'll come around. And there's some people we choose we can do that for, and others we can't. But the situation I want you to picture and illustrate for yourself is, okay, I'm mad that this person has a different belief system than I do. And I come online or I talk to someone else about them, about how angry I am about their messaging and their content. But have I took the space and time to present questions to them or considered why they think the way they do? And do I have any grace for how they got there? This next video is going to be the resources that the one resource that we're going to use for the support part of the ads framework. So this creator name is Morgan Birch. I'll get into Morgan Birch in another video. I like the content that I've come across so far, but this is something that I think can be useful not only with this idea of different belief systems, but the idea of building better relationships with the people that we love is really to be seen. And right before I get into this, I want to make this last note. The video that we saw about the different belief systems. So Christianity, we have the person who's a little weird or a little bit more abrasive and maybe too kind or too sweet, however that is, or different denominations. I also want to break this out from just the Christian denominations and how there can be diverse opinions there, but bring diversity, equity, and inclusion into the fact that there are all different types of faith belief systems, or all different types of belief systems and faiths. One of them being a lack of, one of them being the hurt from faith or religion. Those are people that also need to be at the table to have these seen conversations that we're gonna see from Morgan Birch, because it seems like we all want the same goal. We all have different perspectives on what that looks like. Some of us feel really strong in our beliefs because of our convictions or because of our testimonies and our interaction, encounters, and experiences. And we can't discredit when we have those personal experiences, but yet we do it over and over again because we don't believe a person's experiences, or we don't like how they come to Christ, or we don't like how they're not in Christ. I know this is a situation where it's going to be diverse, but the thing is, we're practicing in all different areas of our life to get to the solution that we so-called want to see. I don't know, am I the only person who's interested in seeing what it will look like? Because I have a theory that we might like drama a little bit, that if we all just started to be more intentional and be mindful, it could be a little bit boring. We might just be happy and there might not be any drama that we're interested in. When we think about the content that or the marketing or the media, they can only go after what we feed into. If we fed into more content that express that we all have things to work on, that express that we need some self-awareness tools, express that we probably need some therapy sessions, or express that we're consuming in our bodies and how it interacts with our brain and the way that we interact with people, we might get to a safer place with one another. But let's look with Morgan about the scene method.
My husband used to hurt me so much. He made me so mad. And I was like, ugh, until I realized that he's not the person I should be mad at. It was like he was stepping on a landmine and I was blaming him for the explosion, when I should have been looking at how did the landmine get there in the first place. That's what being triggered is. We get mad at the people who trigger us, who make us have these big emotional reactions, when really they didn't put the landmine there, they just stepped on it. Being triggered is not just having a big emotional response. It is my brain right now perceiving this moment right now as if it's one from the past where I didn't have safety, control, or choice. Sometimes that's abuse, trauma. Often it's just childhood. My husband and I started to do this. When one of us got a big hurt, we started to get curious about how the landmine got there in the first place. Wait, why did this hurt so much? That's where the scene questions came from, S-E-E-N. What am I S scared of? What am I E embarrassed about? What was I E expecting? Like, what expectation was I taught to have that I didn't even know that I had? And N, what do I need? S-E-E-N. Using that has turned our deepest areas of conflict into our deepest areas of connection. This is called the SEEN method. It is transforming so many lives. I teach it in a deep dive course that includes Q&A sessions with me, but I also have a free relationship masterclass that gives you the overview. Just DM the word SEEN if you're interested.
Okay, so let me know in the comments what you think about the SEEN method by Morgan. I think that it's very intentional, very clever, very mindful. And what we can do is reach out for resources when we don't have the framework or the example, but we have some idea that there is a better option. And I love that concept, that there's a better story to tell. And if you want to tell that story, you have the desire to tell that story, that we can get creative together on how to get closer and closer to the goals that we want to reach. You can use it as a framework, and use it as an activity, because now we can think about the ads, this investing in these ideas and concepts that we want to implement, how to have better conversations with people that we have different views on, and then consider bringing other people to the table with these thoughtful conversations. When I think about peacemaking, I think about the idea that the sword is also the Bible. We think about what's going on within ourselves. We think about how we can use the Bible to show our real heart and our intent. We're looking at all this content outside of ourselves, but the primary goal here is, how can we apply this in our own world? How can we be what we want to see in the world? I know we've all heard that before. Be what you want in the world, or be that person that you wish somebody was for you. But a lot of this is working on ourselves. And again, this is not to bash ourselves or think that we're not good enough or all these things are wrong with us, but to really have goals beyond, I want to be the top person in the world. I want to have all the power and the wealth. It might be interesting to see who truly wants to be kind to the next person, who truly wants to build community with the next person. And these are unsung heroes in our everyday communities, that they aren't celebrities, they aren't a big platform, they're people that no one knows, but they have the biggest hearts. And I've come across people like that, and you can feel it. And I have that desire to one day be someone who sincerely, authentically just able to do these things from a real true heart. I'm practicing right now, because there are aspects of me where I am trying my best to be kind, and trying my best to have self-control, and trying my best to show up with joyfulness. But in a world with all these different obstacles, I have to keep reframing my mindset and keep shifting my thoughts. And this is a practice that I'm interested in. So if you're also interested and have the desire to practice shifting our thoughts, looking at the good, getting creative with thinking on the good, click on the subscribe button and the like button so you don't miss out on all the fun. Until next time, hold on to you as much as you can. Hold on to your health, your well-being, and your mind. Be mindful. Bye. And check out this next video where we're going to finish our peacemaker over pushover / people pleaser series.
Have you ever had a dreams that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?